I think it was the Wrestling Observer newsletter, actually, Meltzer, so again, take it with a grain of salt. It wasn't Fightful or PW Insider, which are a bit more, on point with some stuff. Meltzer can be very hit or miss, especially this year, so again, take it with a grain of salt. But it was reported about a week ago that WWE, after Swerve signed his new contract, now the former AEW World Champion, but still a top talent in the company, probably headlining it All Out this coming Sunday in that unsanctioned Lights Out cage match in Chicago this coming weekend. It was reported that he not only signed his new deal, but WWE apparently not necessarily not happy about it, but not really understanding the value there and thinking that it hurts the market. I'm not sure why anyone from WWE would tell someone like Meltzer this, or where Meltzer would have even gotten that from. I'm not saying it's necessarily untrue, but just the idea of them thinking that doesn't entirely surprise me. It is a stupid thought. But that they would then share that to someone like a Meltzer or a dirt sheet, quote-unquote, writer, reporter, whatever. Again, thinking that it hurts the market. Now, I know they had said the same thing about Garcia. That one I can more so understand. We don't know how much they're offering Garcia, AEW, that is, to stay. I think the belief is that he is staying in AEW, and we talked about this a couple of weeks ago. That doesn't shock me. I think he should stay where he's at currently in AEW. And if he's being offered $5 million, then I can understand it. But I think someone in Swerve's position, being a top talent, former world champion, and clearly a lot of upside. Like, this is not a guy whose best years are behind him. I think he can be a top talent for that company in the years to come. I think they signed him to a 4-year deal. These are his prime years, so I totally get that. What are your thoughts? What's your reaction to hearing about the WWE, thought process on that hurting the market? I can kind of believe that in certain situations, but with Swerve, that just sounds completely ridiculous.
Yeah, I think it just depends on, I kind of understand their thought. Depending on how much he's getting paid, like you said, if WWE valued him at X amount of dollars and his contract he got from them was 5 times what the market value was, I can understand what they're saying, because it's just like you're just grossly overpaying for people because money's not an option. You could kind of say that, like, something similar with, like, the housing market now, like, a house nowadays costs 2 or 3 times what it cost 10, 15 years ago. Mm-hmm. So, like, where's the money value? Like you said, like, then the value of a house is going up, and realistically, nothing's really changed. So, I think it's just like you said, like the market value. It's just like if they see someone at a certain level. I guess you could consider like the NFL, like a couple years ago, like when Deshaun Watson, he got like the first fully guaranteed contract, and the other owners are like, "What are you doing? Like, he's not the best. You're basically resetting the market, because now all these other players who are better are going to be like, well, he's making this amount of money. It's all guaranteed. I should be making that amount." Mm-hmm. So I think that's kind of where they're coming from. It's like, I think Swerve's great, but I don't know exactly how much he's making, but I think they said it was like Okada Mercedes money. Seems a little high, but I just don't. Like I said, it all really depends on what they're offering him. If for Tony, the money's not money's not an issue because he has endless amount of it. So if you're overpaying all these people, it's just like I feel like it eventually could get out of hand.
Yeah, it depends on who we're talking about here. Again, if with Swerve, I can totally understand him being worth the amount of money that they're probably offering him for a top deal. It was said that it's one of the biggest contracts that AEW has signed any talent to. And, when you put it in the same conversation as people like Punk, Edge, I'm sure, is not getting paid pennies to be there. Jericho.
What's Ricochet making?
That's really the bigger question. I think a question or a report like this, not that it's blown out of proportion, because if WWE thought that about Swerve, I think that's stupid, because I think he has proven himself to be worth that amount of money. Even in Okada, it's kind of funny, because you mentioned that he was among those people that they offered a ton of money to come in. And it might have, part of that might have been like living costs too, because the guy had to move from Japan. Swerve already lives in the States. Okada probably had to be offered a lot of money to leave where he was in Japan to come to AEW. But he doesn't feel currently, he is one of the best wrestlers in the world. Okada currently does not feel like a top tier talent in that company, based on how he's been booked and some of the comedy stuff, which I'm not particularly a fan of personally. But that's the bigger question with someone like a Ricochet. How much is his deal compared to the deal that he was making, the amount of money he was making in WWE? It's probably pretty comparable. He didn't mention whether he was offered a better deal to come to AEW compared to WWE. I think it just kind of came down to having more fun in AEW, and that's why he wanted to go there. But again, he's probably not being paid pennies either. I just think it's an interesting concept because I think the market value, you made the house comparison, which is totally valid. I think it's probably dependent on what the market is willing to pay for him. I don't know if WWE would be willing to pay Swerve what they are paying him in AEW. But, I mean, that's their prerogative, and that would be totally fine. I would disagree with that. I think Swerve would be worth that amount of money. But then you also think for WWE's end, they already have their top stars. They already have these people that they're paying a lot of money to. I mean, Kevin Owens, we talked about him last week, I think. His deal coming up and whatnot. I think the report was 3 years ago when he re-signed that he was making like $2.5–3 million a year, which sounds fucking crazy for a guy that's not like a top tier talent. I think Owens is awesome, but he's not a guy that's been like a perennial world champion for the past 8 years. I mean, he's been a mid-carder really. So I mean, it's an interesting concept. I think it's going to be it's going to come down to how much WWE is willing to pay for some of these people too. So I don't know. I feel like it's a case by case basis.
Yeah, no, like I said, I think depending on the person, it's definitely worth it. Like for them, for Swerve, I think they've invested enough in him that they think a slight overpay is like it's worth it for them. Like I think they lost Swerve, it kind of looked bad on the company, especially when they went to WWE again. So I think for him specifically, I get it, or someone that they've been pushing, but like grossly overpaying on like Danny Garcia would kind of be like a head scratcher.
Yeah, not even Garcia. I mean, he's a guy that could be, I mean, will he be as big as Swerve? I don't know about that necessarily, but like I think he can be bigger and there's upside there. But like the amount of money, and again, if they're getting paid, that's great for them, first of all. I mean, more power to the talent itself. I'm just speaking from a company standpoint and how much they're willing to pay for certain people compared to others. But like a Brian Cage or a Lance Archer getting paid to really do nothing, I mean, must be great for them, unless they're probably creatively frustrated that they're not doing more. Cage has been on TV quite a bit this year. Lance Archer has been barely, like, for them to, for example, when his deal comes up, Lance Archer was signed in early 2020. Did he sign a 5-year deal? Because I haven't heard about him re-signing, so I'm not sure. For them to go ahead and re-sign him, what's the value there? They're not even using him. It's like WWE attempting to re-sign the OC 5 years ago to like fucking $600,000 deals. Like for what reason? What value is there in the OC? Even in 2019, let alone in 2024. I don't know. It's very weird on both companies' end, but I think some people are worth it. I think Swerve is a guy that they can build around, and he's a guy that would be worth it.